now we are going back into your case again. Now those were the red flags that came during dating. Now you get into married and you are there for 30 years. There are two questions that we're going to ask ourselves: how and why?
I wish I didn't have to answer those questions, but I will try to. One, let
Uh-huh.
me begin by by answering that the question of this person, our friend who said they are raised in a domestic violence situation, and you heard me talk about the fact that we better be very, very careful that the much we are tolerating domestic violence, we need to be alert. And I want each one of us to think about it from a very different angle, that domestic violence, and for me also, when you ask me why and how, I came to realize on later on, because in the beginning I am focused about the fact that I'm being beaten, I'm going through hell, and I am being financially deprived and everything. But I wasn't paying attention to the damage it was doing to my children, who are very afraid. And that whoever is talking about growing up in that environment, children grow afraid, they grow blaming themselves, or maybe if I wasn't born, my mommy and daddy will not be fighting, or if I didn't need school fees or food or clothing, they would not have to fight. The children start blaming themselves, and because even the most of the abusers, especially, I'm sorry to say this, the Gathuru, but a lot of the men in my generation who are abusing our parents would come beat the mothers and the children and then disappear. So the mother is left for defending for the children, and I think it still happens even today. But especially the boys would think it was a good thing. It was macho man, they were being macho, like they were being like men. And I want to bring it here, something I've written to myself, that there are some cultural norms, traditions that make it good when a man is fighting at home. You're proving yourself as a man. Honestly, your wife married you because you are a man. Or if it is your husband married you because he needed a wife. He did not buy you to be a brute. I mean, he did not marry you so that you can go and fight. So the people who are brought up under these dysfunctional families have a tendency, remember that children are the best copycats. And if we do not realize that this is happening, and God help you before it is too late, if you're the one being abused, that you realize somewhere along the way that my children are absorbing this, and they are going to be abusers unless I talk about it, unless we deal with it now. If you are going to leave it until they are grown up, they are married, and they start doing the same thing, healing that will take much longer. What I did for me is, when I realized that my children were behaving, they were looking very scared, and then they will start fighting between themselves. My mother told me, be on the lookout. Your children are soaking. Your children are smelling what you are going through. And I said at the beginning, the worst you can do to any child is when they watch their mother being abused, whichever way. And so that is when I realized that, I started talking with my children. One of the things that kept me going there for long, I talked about financial abuse. I'm a professional. I'm a professional. I'm making good money, but he's controlling every dollar, every penny. So that would be one of the reasons why I would hang in there, because I'm not going through these things because we are poor, but he's controlling everything. My children are in good schools. We have good cars and everything, but I do not control any of my penny. While I'm making that money professionally, he's controlling everything. I'm not here to mess up his name. We made it up. I worked. I moved on with my life. He moved on with his life. I no longer dwell on that. But it is important for me to share that this is what held me back. Had I known that this is where it was leading, I might have done it differently. Talk about the red flags. The red flag was the issue of my money being controlled by one person. Investments being controlled by one person happened very early in our marriage. And because I didn't want any fights, I didn't want any confrontations, I gave in. This is the deal. Do not say yes just for the sake of saying yes. Make your wills known. Make your desires known right from the go, when you get married or when you're planning your marriage. Do not be a coward to say yes when you know you really need to be saying no. And this is something I teach when I do therapy in other areas. We need to learn to say no. Don't say yes to please somebody. Do not let somebody belittle you. Do not let somebody put so much fear in you that even when you know they are putting you in a corner, they are pushing you in a corner where you cannot do anything for yourself. Learn to make your own mind. We can have a joint account, but everybody should have access to that. Let it not be that false or fake joint account where it is a joint account just for the sake of it, but you cannot access even a penny. You cannot access anything. So when things go wrong, how am I going to move out? I cannot even rent a room for my children. I cannot even feed them. I cannot continue paying school for them. So ask me why I stayed for those 30 years. I got to a point depressed and so suicidal as I was, where all I wanted was to see my children out of, finish their school, get what they needed. So I became the sacrificial lamb. You are there, you are listening to me. The problem of being the sacrificial lamb is that I also became very suicidal. And if it was not for God, I should be dead and alive. What do you need to, what precautions do you need to take? Who are you talking to? Who do you have? And the other things they do is they isolate you. You cannot visit your friends. You cannot talk to your family. You cannot even talk to your pastor because they want to make sure that nobody knows what you're going through. After all, they'll buy you a Mercedes and buy you a home in Karen or Lavington to cover it up. If you're here in diaspora, who knows what you're going through? We have a lot of people in our diaspora community who are going through hell. But the people back in Kenya think, oh, Wajiro is in America and she's in a good marriage. After all, she's in America. She's a Dr. Penny. But you don't know, we need to take interest in really what is behind all these facades. We cover it up. And then because of the societal demands, we don't want to say that I am going through domestic violence, because the moment people know that you are going through domestic violence, there is laughter. You are being mocked, you are being labeled, you are being condemned. It is your fault. Or what do women want? She's married to a very rich guy. She's driving this and she's driving that. What does she want? Little do you know that I am driving a new Mercedes. Little do you know that I'm carrying the best handbag, but I don't sleep. How many people around you are going through the same thing? Your first lady in your church. Allow me to say this. I am a minister myself. I was going through this. That time I was not ordained, but I was in ministry. But I covered it up because who wants the people I am ministering to know that I'm also an abused woman? So the play. I mean, the society plays a very big part in nurturing domestic violence because we are not very compassionate when people are going through it. People hide. Another thing I don't like forgetting is when we see the Bible says, I think there is a place in the Bible where we say that God hates divorce. Yes, he does. I know he does, and I know it is somewhere I'll get it. He hates divorce, but he has not said anywhere he hates the divorcee. He hates divorce, not the divorcee. Why? I'll say this from a ministry, as a minister. He hates divorce because of what divorce does to his people. Here I am as a minister. Somebody comes to me, I'm a therapist, I'm a minister, and they come and tell me, oh, I'm going through this and the other. Oh, you know, God hates divorce. You need to just go back. Am I going to tell you to go back there? You are telling me he's threatening with a gun. He's threatening with knives. Am I going to tell you to go back there just for the sake of keeping your name so that you have a public image? One, your children are seeing this. No wonder we have that person who is living under in domestic violence from parents, but they cannot do anything about it because they are observing all this. God hates divorce, not the divorcee. I know he loves me. Am I perfect? I am a woman in the making, and I'm not I'm not encouraging divorce. I always say, do your very best until the very end. The reason I finally walked away is death threats. That's when I realized not only am I going to die for myself, but I'm going to die for my children. My parents were alive then. Why should I put my parents through that? Just because people are going to talk. I say, stop worrying what everybody is going to say. Stop worrying what everybody is going to think, because when you die alone. You leave orphans, you leave people who love you suffering. Your life is worth everything.